Wonders of China, hidden heritage facing time and decay. A 71-meter Buddha took 90 years to carve and still requires repeated repair. Across China, the decisive question is which ancient fabric survived and which was reconstructed. Stone splits under floodwater, cave murals fade in dry air, and timber sanctuaries are rebuilt after weather strips them down. Preservation can hold a site together. It can also replace the very evidence that gave the place its age. I want to know where protection ends and a new structure begins. That line matters across cliff temples, buried courtyards, mountain fortresses, and painted caves, where legends often outlast records. In this video, we examine what remains original, what modern hands restored or recreated, and whether survival still carries the truth of the place. Cliffs, caves, springs, and pilgrimage routes carry Mount Mian's age more securely than many of the buildings now attached to them. Across Mount Mian, the cliffs, caves, springs, and pilgrimage routes are the enduring fabric. Many visible halls and paths have been heavily repaired or reconstructed. Mianshan is not one monument or one design. Sanctuaries occupy ledges and recesses linked by stairs, tunnels, bridges, and cliffside walkways. At Baofu Rock, a vast natural overhang shelters the Yunfeng temple area. Qixian Valley compresses worship into a gorge, while Daluo Palace answers with monumental mass. Those contrasts expose repeated building campaigns, not a single preserved original. Taoist, Buddhist, and folk practices have all shared space on the same mountain. The strongest story is also the least solid as biography. Tradition says Jiezitui refused reward, withdrew here with his mother, and was lost after a fire was ordered to force him out. That account helped shape the Cold Food Festival and later customs around Qingming. The tradition matters, but its central biography should not be presented as fully documented. The rock keeps applying pressure. Runoff strikes roofs, winter ice works into stairs, metal corrodes, and loose stone threatens roots suspended above the ravines. Timber halls also crowd narrow corridors where evacuation is difficult. Preservation here requires drainage, reinforcement, inspection, and fire protection, not cosmetic renewal alone. Roads, lifts, lighting, engineered paths, and modern safety gear now carry mass tourism through terrain once defined by hard pilgrimage. They protect access, but they also change what survives. The mountain's genuine age is clearest, where cliff and cave, repaired structure, and modern intervention remain readable together, not where renewal smooths them into one period. The act of seeing Mogao now threatens what 16 desert centuries preserved. Near Dunhuang, roughly 740 caves were cut into the cliff. Almost 500 still preserve art. From the 4th to the 14th century, this was a Silk Road junction at the Gobi edge. Monks, merchants, officials, ruling families, and local patrons paid for chambers of worship, memory, and status. Their money drove serious engineering. Workers excavated small meditation cells and large halls, then covered them with linked sculpture and painting. What survives is immense, about 45,000 square meters of murals and more than 2,400 painted sculptures. Yet scale is not the main evidence. Clothes, instruments, buildings, farms, hunts, processions, travelers, and donors register the traffic of entire centuries. Shifts in costume and style expose Dunhuang's changing political and cultural ties. Cave 17 carries a sharper fracture, sealed around the 11th century and opened in 1900 by caretaker Wang Yuanlu. It held tens of thousands of manuscripts, paintings, textiles, and objects in several languages. Foreign expeditions acquired large groups in the early 20th century. The archive gained international reach, but its dispersal still carries the weight of unequal acquisition and cultural loss. The desert slowed decay. It never stopped it. Sand abrades the cliff, salts move through plaster, unstable rock puts chambers under pressure, and humidity loosens pigments and binding layers. Visitors add heat, moisture, carbon dioxide, and dust. Modern stewardship answers with restricted entry, environmental monitoring, cliff stabilization, and high-resolution digital records. Replicas can absorb visitor traffic when they remain clearly labeled, but neither copy nor digital record can recover dispersed archives or replace aging original plaster. Protection begins by refusing that equivalence. Clipped to a steel cable, exhausted climbers reach a 2-square-meter shop halfway along Xinyujai's engineered cliff route. The kiosk covers about 2 square meters of cliff in Xinyujai National Geological Park. It serves a via ferrata, built from steel cables, footholds, ladders, and harnesses. No road, ordinary footpath, or service lift reaches its window. Customers arrive clipped to the climbing line, often after sustained exertion. That changes retail into a supply operation at height. Staff carry bottled water and other light stock upward by hand. Inside, worker, stock, tools, and safety gear share 2 square meters. Bottles and waste must be secured for the climb back down. Waste cannot remain on the cliff. Empty packaging and rubbish make the same narrow journey back down. Water has reportedly sold for around 2 yuan a bottle, and staff sometimes provide it without charge to visibly exhausted climbers. At that point, the kiosk stops being a novelty and becomes support infrastructure. The workers make a judgment no normal counter requires. They must separate a souvenir purchase from a need for rest or assistance, while heat, anxiety, and limited chances to turn back build pressure. Weather can close the route. rain slicks metal and rock, wind unsettles balance and loose gear, and thunderstorms can make exposed steel unsafe. Anchors, platforms, cables, and the kiosk attachment all demand inspection. Deteriorating conditions may force closure. The route stays open only through repeated maintenance and timely closures. Nothing here claims antiquity. Shinyujai works as a control case. Visible steel, dated inspections, and replaceable parts show how clearly modern intervention can be disclosed. Below the 108 precisely ordered dagobas, dams, roads, reservoirs, and irrigation have repeatedly remade the Yellow River corridor. 108 brick dagobas climb the Ningxia slope in 12 rows, while dams, roads, reservoirs, and irrigation now shape the Yellow River below. Their origins are commonly placed in the Western Xia period, when a Tangut-led kingdom controlled much of this northwestern region between the 11th and 13th centuries. Buddhism carried weight in both political and religious life. Yet this was never sacred ground, isolated from labor. The river moved people and fed irrigation, agriculture, and settlement through an otherwise dry corridor. The triangle narrows to 1 stupa at the top and broadens to 19 at the base. From below, repetition makes separate brick towers read as one deliberate structure. The number 108 carries several Buddhist associations, often linked with afflictions or forms of ignorance to be overcome. Local tradition also connects the complex with prayers for river travelers. Those meanings matter, but they do not prove the original purpose of every stupa. Cultural meaning and documented purpose must therefore remain separate. Distance hides another divide. Profiles, proportions, and surface details vary, possibly marking different building phases and later repairs. The masonry takes constant pressure. Temperature swings open cracks, wind-blown dust, rain, salt movement, and water entering those gaps then wear down exposed brick. Once protective plaster is lost, deterioration speeds up. Each repair can defend the shape while replacing evidence. That is the preservation paradox here. The medieval arrangement and present-day surfaces are two different categories of evidence. Honest stewardship must identify both. The honest view is therefore a mixed one. Medieval arrangement, surviving brick, new plaster, and rebuilt sections, all named rather than blended. Drop by mineral-loaded drop, Zhijin Cave is still being built. At Zhijin in Guizhou, the developed visitor route runs about 6.5 kilometers through passages, shafts, and immense halls. The force behind that scale is weekly acidic rain. Water absorbs carbon dioxide, enters cracks in limestone, and slowly widens them into the space now open underground. Then, construction reverses. Mineral-rich water reaches air, releases carbon dioxide, and leaves calcite behind. Drops hanging from the roof extend stalactites downward. Water striking the floor raises stalagmites, while thin flows build curtains, rimstone, and layered sheets. The silver rain tree rises about 17 meters. Its size records long, stable water movement, not a single burst of geological force. That scale creates a false sense of permanence. A broken tip or an oil-stained growth surface cannot be restored within a human lifetime. Tourism becomes another environmental force. Bodies release heat, moisture, and carbon dioxide. Footwear carries dust. Artificial light can feed algae that natural darkness would suppress. Managed paths and barriers hold movement away from active formations. Controlled lighting cuts heat and biological growth. But those installations are safeguards, not part of the cave's ancient fabric. The deepest pressure may begin above ground. Quarrying, pollution, roads, or altered drainage can change the water that enters the cave and carries new material through it. Protection, therefore, has to reach beyond the entrance and cover the watershed. The UNESCO Global Geopark designation in 2015 recognizes that Xijin records the evolution of plateau karst, not merely a collection of large formations. Xijin leaves the film with its plainest boundary. Time makes the original. People add paths, barriers, lamps, and repairs. Trust begins when those additions never pretend to be the thing they protect. The route that made Atule'er famous was both a lifeline and a barrier. Until 2016, residents could spend up to 2 hours crossing long rattan ladders between the Yi village and the valley below. School children drew global attention, but the climb governed nearly every outside connection. Food, medicine, tools, building materials, and goods for sale all moved by human carrying power. Rain or a damaged ladder could close the route. Illness or an injured resident turned the same vertical distance into an emergency. The village was not perched there by mistake. Families had homes, fields, livestock routines, and ancestral ties on the plateau above the cliff. That made every solution costly. Staying restricted access to schools, clinics, markets, and public services. Leaving broke the daily link with land and livelihood. In 2016, a steel staircase of more than 2,500 steps replaced the rattan route. Rails and firmer footing reduced risk, but they did not flatten the mountain. Supplies still had to rise by muscle, and weather still controlled the climb. This was a major engineering intervention, not a complete release from altitude. In 2020, most residents moved to apartments in the county seat under a poverty relief program. Utilities, education, healthcare, and jobs came closer. Farmland and old routines moved farther away. Adaptation did not end with relocation. Some former residents returned as guides or service operators, while others used live streaming to sell local products and present Yi culture. The old settlement then became a tourism destination. A route once shown as evidence of deprivation was repackaged as a managed attraction and source of income. The hardest boundary here is human. Safer access and better services are real gains, but they should not turn relocation, or the former ladders into a polished story with no cost. Two small temples stand on opposite halves of a rock summit that barely leaves room for access and repair. The Red Cloud's golden summit is a narrow spire split by a deep cleft on a mountain more than 2,500 meters high. Fanjingshan forms the highest part of the Wuling Range. Its isolation and rapid rise compress several ecological zones into one mountain, where forests at different heights sheltered rare life through long environmental change. The Guizhou snub-nosed monkey and Fanjingshan fir survive within restricted ranges. Their refuge helped secure UNESCO World Heritage inscription in 2018. This is also a Buddhist pilgrimage landscape associated with Maitreya, the Buddha of the future. Faith and ecology face the same hard limit. Almost everything must move vertically. Long stairways climb through forest, cloud, wet stone, and exposed slopes. Mist can remove visibility within minutes. Rain, winter ice, and strong wind tighten the margin for movement. At the summit, steep steps squeeze through narrow sections before a short bridge crosses the cleft. The route creates the spectacle, then restricts crowd flow, repair access, and evacuation. The temples are not untouched survivors. Roofs, rails, stairs, drainage, and masonry have been repaired or reconstructed because wet stone, wind, and ice keep applying pressure. That work is necessary, but its date and extent matter. The boundary must remain visible: old rock, surviving building fabric, renewed masonry, and modern safety hardware. Cable transport and managed paths now bring more people than the older pilgrimage trail could support. Access sustains religious practice, but crowds add noise, litter, erosion, and movement beyond marked routes. Fanjingshan earns trust when repaired temples are identified as such, and access stays controlled. Preservation cannot sustain pilgrimage by crowding the rare habitat that makes this mountain exceptional. A cave can be ancient, while the shrine sealing its entrance is recent. At Drak Yerpa, northeast of Lhasa, natural chambers sit beside repaired masonry, restored temples, and recent religious images. This is not one monastery arranged around a court. Its chapels, ruined walls, caves, and paths are spread across a steep, high-altitude valley, forcing movement between separate stations. Geology supplied the first architecture. Some chambers remain small natural shelters for one practitioner. Others carry facades, doors, painted interiors, or shrines built around the rock. The cliffs created retreat by separating practitioners from Lhasa and ordinary demands. They also turned every act of upkeep into transport work. At high altitude, hard sunlight fades pigments, freeze-thaw cycles open masonry, and wind tests every roof edge. Even a small repair begins with a carry-up narrow paths. Even worship had an engineering limit. Lamps and incense needed ventilation inside chambers barely large enough for a solitary retreat. Tibetan Buddhist tradition ties different caves to Songtsen Gampo, Padmasambhava, and the Indian teacher Atisha. Across centuries, those associations joined separate chambers into one remembered sacred landscape. Yet names do not date walls. A cave may be old, while its doorway, paintings, roof, or shrine may come from a much later repair. Devotional spaces suffered severe loss during the Cultural Revolution and were restored afterward. The result is not a single age, but a physical record of survival, interruption, and return. I find the unevenness more convincing than a flawless rebuild. Ancient cavities, surviving fragments, repaired masonry, and new images should remain visibly distinct. Drak Yerpa is most convincing as a layered record. Natural cave, surviving wall, modern repair and renewed shrine, each identified, none borrowing age from another. The cliffs that protected these villages now force every new road, guest house, and field onto the same narrow ground. Four Tibetan settlements, Dongwa, Yeri, Dari, and Daiba, climb through a limestone enclosure between roughly 3,000 and 3,300 meters. Jagana is often translated as stone box. The phrase is literal. Steep rock confines the ground where homes, lanes, fields, forest, streams, and grazing slopes must all fit. That tight geography built the settlement pattern. Families combined barley, seasonal herding, forest use, religious practice, and trade, because no single livelihood could carry mountain life. The old fabric here is more than timber and wall. It is the working link between house, field, pasture, shrine, and the short highland growing season. Isolation kept that link intact, but charged a hard price. Medical care, schools, markets, and heavy supplies depended on slow routes exposed to winter and landslides. New roads broke that constraint. Guest houses, restaurants, parking areas, viewing platforms, and enlarged homes now press against the same limited ground that once carried crops and animals. Tourism brings cash and reduces dependence on punishing agricultural labor. It also raises traffic, waste, water demand, construction pressure, and land values. This is where preservation becomes difficult. A new facade can copy an old appearance while the original building method and household use disappear behind it. The decisive seam runs between what endured and what tourism built to look traditional. Blur it, and restoration preserves an image while destroying evidence. Jagana is no sealed relic. Residents still farm, herd, manage homes, and sustain religious life. New work should remain a visible addition to that living structure, not its replacement. Nine tiers of timber and stone fill a mountain crack with 9 centuries of worship. Yet much of what visitors see was built recently. The fissure in Zhejiang's Yandang Mountains rises about 110 meters, but admits only a strip of sky. Builders did not set a monastery before the cliff. They fitted 9 levels of wood and stone into the fissure, making rock the enclosure, roof, and sacred backdrop. The route rises through compressed landings to the 9th level sanctuary. About 300 Arhat figures line the walls, marking the ascent with the Buddha's disciples. That vertical design still controls daily life. Worshippers, maintenance crews, supplies, incense smoke, and emergency access all compete for the same narrow stairs. A sanctuary was founded in the early 12th century during the Northern Song dynasty. That age belongs to the site's continuity, not to every beam, stair, or statue. Shade and humidity press constantly against the fabric. Water enters through rock joints, reaching timber, plaster, paint, devotional objects, and wiring, while restricted ventilation traps smoke and moisture. Insects, structural fatigue, moisture, and changing patronage have driven repeated rebuilding. The stone fissure endures while wooden halls, stairs, and devotional objects are replaced around it. This is the distinction I find essential. Continuity of worship does not make the visible woodwork untouched song fabric. Much of the present complex is reconstruction or renovation. Stewardship must control drainage, ventilation, lighting, and visitor movement without burying the cave beneath equipment. New work should remain legible as new. Guanyin Cave deserves preservation because the ancient fissure, vertical worship route, and returning worshippers are real. Restoration must protect that truth, not cover it. Two medieval brick towers stand on summits that seem to deny any route for bricks, water, timber, or workers. Near Chengde, each tower crowns an isolated rock pillar shaped by erosion, with steep and sometimes overhanging sides beneath masonry attributed to the 10th century Liao period. The landscape explains the pillars, but not the construction. Erosion stripped away weaker material and left the harder masses standing, then kept working after the towers were complete. Bricks, tools, timber, mortar, and water all had to reach those small summits. So did the builders who assembled them. Scaffolds, ropes, wooden ladders, or an access ledge later removed by erosion could explain the climb. None has been proved. The restraint matters to me. A clean, modern answer would make the story easier, but it would replace missing evidence with confidence. What survives is already substantial. Medieval masonry from a frontier landscape where Buddhist monuments and settlements stood near routes between agricultural and pastoral territories. The rock is not a finished pedestal. Rain enters joints, roots widen cracks, and winter freezing and thawing loosen the stone beneath the towers. Above, wind, moisture, and temperature swings wear down brick and mortar. Inaccessible walls make inspection and stabilization difficult. If a slope or ledge once reached the summits, centuries of erosion may have erased it. The landform can remove the evidence while leaving the question intact. Folklore enters that gap. One account says the Qianlong Emperor ordered a wooden ladder built, and climbers found straw sandals, an incense burner, and other objects above. It is a powerful imperial story, not established archaeology. Preservation should keep the legend apart from the masonry and mark any stabilization as modern work. That boundary prevents new work from passing as 10th century fabric. Much of the palace identified with Tibet's earliest kings was built in the late 20th century. Most of Yumbulagang was lost during the Cultural Revolution, and reconstruction completed in 1983 restored the towers, walls, and compact silhouette now recognized across the valley. Its setting, however, was not rebuilt. On the narrow ridge of Tashitsere Hill, the structure still commands the cultivated Yarlung Valley, fields, villages, and river routes, rather than empty wilderness. That ridge gave rulers broad visibility and left almost no room to expand. Anyone approaching could be observed long before reaching the stone steps. Height also imposed a hard daily bill. Food, water, fuel, timber, and every repair material had to be carried uphill along the steep approach. Tibetan tradition calls Yumbulagang the first palace and links it to Nyatri Tsenpo, the legendary first king believed to have descended from the heavens. Later accounts connect it with Songtsen Gampo. These traditions carry cultural weight, but they do not prove that today's masonry reaches back to the legendary beginning of Tibetan kingship. That boundary matters. As political power shifted, chapels and sacred images strengthened the ridge's religious role. Devotion kept royal memory active after the palace had lost its original function. The distinction is simple. Rebuilding can preserve a landmark without preserving its original fabric. Honest care must state both achievements. Yumbulagang's ridge, traditions, and recovered silhouette remain meaningful. Its modern walls do not become ancient evidence by repeating an ancient form. A shrine scarcely larger than a small room occupies a rock pillar where ordinary construction space disappears. The Golden Summit Guanyin Temple covers roughly 60 square feet with cliffs on 3 sides and one restricted route of approach. That approach is not an inconvenience added to the sacred site. Across Tayun Mountain, gates, stairs, ridges, and small precincts turn physical separation into part of the pilgrimage. Withdrawal from worldly distraction is built into the climb. Near the summit, the ridge narrows until passing, resting, and carrying supplies all compete for the same strip of stone. Fog can erase the valleys. Rain, frost, and crosswinds then turn railings, sound footing, and disciplined movement into essential mountain engineering. The greater test is maintenance. Tiles, timber, mortar, tools, water, and provisions must move up the pilgrim's constricted route. There is almost no ground beside the shrine for storage or heavy equipment. A modest roof repair becomes a transport operation measured in handholds, balance, and weather. The mountain keeps pressing back. Wind-driven rain wears down joints and paint. Moisture enters the supporting rock, and winter freezing pushes existing fractures wider. The visible buildings are therefore not untouched survivors from one ancient building phase. Timber, tiles, mortar, and painted surfaces have been repaired or replaced as exposure demanded. What persists most clearly is the summit position, the narrow devotional route, and the ritual use. Even the Guanyin chamber, Buddhist in dedication on a mountain broadly tied to Taoism, records a layered sacred practice rather than a single frozen moment. Taiyun sets the test for every site that follows. Protect the hard ascent and living shrine, but let repaired timber, tile, and paint declare their newer dates. From the fields above, Dikengyuan nearly disappears. Open squares replace roofs, and vaulted rooms extend sideways into loess about 10 meters below. Instead of raising walls against the weather, this architecture uses the ground as structure and insulation. Dry loess is workable, and its mass softens summer heat and winter cold. Rooms commonly remain near 15 to 20 degrees Celsius, but the earth does not manage the house alone. Doors, ventilation, cooking fires, bedding, and steady upkeep still matter. The open court organized an extended household with sleeping rooms, kitchens, storage, workshops, and animal shelters inside one protected compound. A sloping tunnel carried people, fuel, harvests, and animals to the surface. From above, little declares a settlement except parapets, ramps, trees, and a checkerboard of openings. That low profile is not neglect. It is the governing design. Water is the decisive pressure. Raised edges and shaped ground turn runoff aside, while pits collect rain that reaches the courtyard. When drains block or storms saturate the loess, walls can slump. An occupied courtyard survives through small, repeated acts, clearing drains, sealing cracks, keeping air moving. Once families leave, water finds every missed repair, and abandonment accelerates structural loss. Modern houses, roads, and changing expectations have pulled many residents to the surface. Some pit courtyards remain homes, others now serve as restaurants, guest houses, or heritage displays. Reuse can finance maintenance, but concrete, plumbing, enlarged openings, and decorative rebuilding can blur the evidence. The distinction must remain visible: surviving earth, necessary repair, modern insertion. Distinctive acoustics are real. Claims of a formal warning network are folklore. Smooth concrete and staged legend may make Dikengyuan easier to sell, but harder to read. A monument meant to calm a river has spent more than 12 centuries resisting water. At the meeting of the Min, Dadu, and Chingi rivers, a 71-meter Buddha rises from red sandstone as the tallest surviving pre-modern stone Buddha. It was carved from the cliff, not assembled from blocks. Its head stands nearly 15 meters high, and each ear extends about 7 meters. Those proportions answered a hard visual problem. The figure had to remain legible from boats and the opposite bank, where smaller features would vanish into the cliff. Work began in the early 8th century under the monk Haitong, when crews faced powerful, unpredictable currents at the confluence. Tradition cast the Buddha as their spiritual protector. The undertaking stretched across 90 years, stopping and restarting under patrons before completion in the early 9th century. This was endurance across generations, not one patron's short project. The carvers hid another piece of engineering inside the monument. Channels through the hair, collar, chest, and back carry rain away from vulnerable surfaces. That drainage slowed deterioration. It never made porous sandstone permanent. Moisture, vegetation, moving salts, pollution, and fractures still work into the figure. Some earlier repairs introduced materials that did not suit the original stone. Modern teams must clear channels, control plants, track fractures, and secure loose surfaces without wiping away the evidence of age. Crowded cliff stairs and sightseeing boats add pressure, but intervention creates its own risk. A surface made too even or too fresh can preserve the outline while weakening the monument's historical proof. On a figure this large, the crucial line can be measured in millimeters, where tangstone ends and later repair begins. The hill that once reduced every approach to a controlled climb now obstructs the work required to preserve it. Rutogdzong runs from the lower slopes toward the summit in Ngari, western Tibet. Daily life occupied lower ground, while authority held the defensible heights. Adzong was not merely a castle. It could combine administration, defense, storage, residence, taxation, and religious authority inside one fortified mass. Gates, turns, and narrow passages controlled access upward. The layout formed a vertical social map with ordinary movement below and authority above. Control from above depended on labor from below. Every stored meal, container of water, and roof repair climbed through the same defended passages. Rutog stood near Western Plateau routes, but travel remained seasonal. High passes, snow, wind, altitude, and limited water could isolate the settlement. Builders cut transport demands by using local stone, mud mortar, compacted earth, and timber where available. Those materials endured only while roofs held and walls received fresh plaster. Once water enters a neglected wall, earth washes from the joints and upper sections fail. Freezing, thawing, and abrasive wind then widen each weakness. These remains do not belong to one securely dated building campaign. Changes in wall thickness, blocked openings, additions, and repaired surfaces point to repeated growth and reuse. When administration and population moved toward newer roads and buildings, the old sections lost the routine care that had kept them habitable. Now the height that strengthened control raises the cost of every survey and stabilization. At Rutog, the newest mortar should be the easiest layer to recognize. A 7-kilometer tunnel opened a valley once cut off for months and turned isolation into a new kind of pressure. Driven through the Gaoligong Mountains in 2014, it gave Dulong communities regular road access throughout the year. Before that breach, heavy rain loosened slopes, winter snow blocked high routes, and narrow trails reduced transport to what people or pack animals could carry. Food, medicine, tools, and building material had to be stored early or hauled over difficult passes. Schools, clinics, and markets remained uncertain. Local goods were costly to move outward. Ridges compress subtropical forest, temperate habitat, and high mountain terrain into one narrow region near the Myanmar border. That sharp elevation change helped sustain exceptional biodiversity. Engineering changed the human equation, not the mountain. The tunnel cut travel times and widened access to services, communications, new materials, and markets. Beyond its protected bore, storms, landslides, slope failures, and road damage can still interrupt movement. Concrete has gained ground here, but terrain still holds leverage. Access also accelerates tourism, investment, waste, and pressure on sensitive forest. Younger residents gain jobs and mobility as language, architecture, and community routines change more quickly. Among older Dulong women, facial tattooing remains a visible cultural memory. The practice ended generations ago, and accounts of its origin differ between community traditions and later outside interpretations. That distinction matters. It records a changing history, not proof that the valley was frozen outside modern time. Preservation must refuse easy fiction. Older architecture, new materials, living customs, and outside interpretations need visible boundaries. Memory must not become spectacle. The tunnel did not end remoteness. It changed what can enter the valley and how quickly. New construction and later interpretation should never make older architecture, living memory, or forest harder to see. A soot stain may reveal more about this fortress than its traditional name. Near Dangyang in Hubei, rooms, narrow passages, sleeping platforms, stoves, and niches were cut directly into a cliff, yet no secure record ties them to one builder, dynasty, or period of unrest. The fixtures show more than a lookout. Stone beds point to repeated occupation, while stoves show that occupants cooked or heated food inside. Niches could hold lamps, vessels, tools, or supplies. Narrowing passages controlled movement between chambers and let a small group secure restricted entrances. The cliff offered protection at a price. Steep slopes slowed heavy loads, and high openings revealed movement below, but water, food, fuel, and bedding still had to be hauled up or stored in advance. Daily survival set the real limit. Smoke needed ventilation, Waste needed removal, drainage had to work, and a blocked passage could turn refuge into confinement. The complex may have changed across several periods. Tool marks, sealed doorways, soot, drainage channels, pottery, and repaired surfaces could separate original cutting from later reuse. Its name comes from folklore. 8 brothers built the refuge to shield their family during disorder and outside pressure. That story preserves a plausible memory of insecurity, but it cannot identify the builders. Now, seepage, roots, loose stone, soot, vandalism, and foot traffic erode the clues. Keeping the chambers open is not enough. Preservation must retain the marks that separate occupation, defensive use, and later modification. Making every chamber look complete would destroy the evidence underfoot. Old carving, later repair, modern support, and the 8 brothers legend are separate kinds of claim. When the Yangtze rises, Guanyin Pavilion loses its lower level to the river without leaving its reef. For nearly 7 centuries, Guanyin Pavilion has occupied Longpanji Reef in the active Yangtze Channel at Ezhou. At lower water, the reef and stone foundation emerge. At high water, the lower level disappears, leaving only upper walls and roof above the current. The upstream base forms a pointed bow rather than a broad, flat barrier. Its masonry divides the current around both sides and reduces direct hydraulic pressure. Rock beneath the structure resists movement better than loose sediment. The pavilion's compact mass gives the water less surface to strike. Yet, the Yangtze gets inside. Floodwater saturates plaster and timber, pushes silt through rooms, lodges branches in openings, and scours foundation joints. During the great floods of 1998 and 2020, the lower pavilion vanished beneath the water while the upper structure remained visible. Staying upright was only the first test. After the water retreated, crews returned by boat. They hauled out mud and debris, dried the interior, inspected masonry, then repaired roofs, finishes, doors, and woodwork. The crucial divide follows materials rather than silhouette. The reef fixes the site, while tiles, plaster, paint, timber fittings, and some masonry have been renewed. Calling every surface 7 centuries old would erase that record. Calling the pavilion a modern copy would ignore the old site, inherited design, and generations of recovery. Guanyin Pavilion survives not as 7 untouched centuries, but as one reef, one inherited form, and generations of repairs whose seams should stay readable. Gold-colored summit roofs now define Laojun's supposedly ancient skyline, though repair and reconstruction created much of what visitors see. The gold-colored summit buildings include extensive repair and reconstruction. They are not an intact city preserved from antiquity. Laojun Mountain belongs to Henan's Funyu range and takes its name from Laozi in his deified form, Lord Lao. Tradition says he withdrew here, giving gates, incense spaces, temples, and summit paths a Taoist purpose. Roads and cable transport remove much of the lower ascent. The final approach still forces movement onto long stairs, narrow ridges, and cliffside walkways. At the summit, every function competes for a thin platform: temples, railings, drainage, circulation, and waiting crowds. On busy days, separating opposing streams of people becomes part of the mountain's engineering. Weather can rewrite those controls within hours. Fog removes reference points, rain slicks polished stairs, and winter ice covers edges while loading roofs. Maintenance crews clear snow, inspect steps, control runoff, and reduce ignition risk among tightly packed timber buildings. Limited evacuation space leaves little room for delay when conditions turn. The golden roofs therefore carry two identities: religious image and modern scenic presentation. Coatings, roof repairs, lightning conductors, and replaced parts keep that image intact. I value that labor, but the visible boundary matters. New work should protect the surviving fabric, not borrow its age. Access is managed for more than conservation. Security restrictions linked to nearby military facilities can exclude foreign passport holders even as domestic tourism fills the routes. Gold unifies the skyline from a distance. Up close, repaired roofs and rebuilt walls should refuse that illusion. Authenticity is not a demand that every wall be left to fail. Old fabric needs drainage, bracing, controlled access, and skilled repair. But protection loses its value when new stone, fresh paint, or a polished legend is presented as untouched history. I believe the honest path is harder. Keep surviving material wherever possible, mark replacement clearly, publish the evidence, and admit where the record ends. A rebuilt temple may still carry worship and craft. A secured cave may still protect irreplaceable art. Neither should borrow age it no longer possesses. China's remote heritage now stands under pressure from weather, tourism, roads, and ambitious renewal. How these places are treated will shape more than monuments. It will define what evidence of an entire civilization remains credible in the next century. Continue with this series as it tests preservation by one demanding standard: what truly survived, what had to be replaced, and whether modern care keeps that boundary visible for the future.